Welcome back to TYT Sports in partnership with RotoWire. The NBA season tips off on Tuesday. My excited, ecstatic, I can't even put words together because we're 6 weeks in the NFL season, and guess what I've been counting down towards, besides the Mets in the World Series, the NBA season tip-off. So we're going to be bringing on Dr. Andre Snellings at Professor DRZ on Twitter to join us for a lot of NBA content this season. More than excited to have him on. And we're going to be doing 2 clips today in terms of the Western Conference preview, the Eastern Conference preview. If you hold us to our predictions, please don't. Please don't. Because like every other media outlet, we might be wrong, but hopefully this year we are right. I love the boldness of the predictions that were sent over already. I think mine are a little bit bold as well. What I can tell you is we are both in agreement. We think the Cavs are going to make the playoffs this year. Andre, how you doing today, first of all? And second of all, who's winning the Western Conference this year?
Yeah, I'm still nervous from being out on that limb that the Cavs are going to make the playoffs. But other than that, I'm doing great. It's a Friday. Just got back in town. Was in Chicago watching the reaction as the Mets swept Chicago. I've been there the last week. So, congratulations. I'm sure you would have loved every second of it.
My heart was there with you.
As for who's going to win the West, I mean, it's like a 4-way coin flip. For today, I'm going to say the Golden State Warriors just because, they found a formula that worked last year, and there's no reason why it should be different this year. They won 67 games. They're a young team with pieces that fit, and they brought the main guys back. So I think they're going to stay on top.
Yeah, I agree with you there. What's interesting about the Warriors is the one thing that I guess would work against them somehow is now that the teams have seen, everybody in the West, everybody in the East in the playoffs, they've seen a year of Steve Kerr's offense. We've seen a year of those high double screens where Steph Curry's getting a shot. Not that he even needs them, but it gives him even more space to get shots off, including Klay Thompson, and off the dribble passing, and everything with that team. It wasn't surprising halfway through last year when you go, yeah, this team's going to win 67 games, and you know what, they're probably going to win the NBA championship. This year, though, below the Warriors, and I'm not sure where your predictions stand, but I see the Clippers, Thunders, Spurs, technically the Rockets, as all teams that are going to challenge them. Have they seen enough of the Warriors' offense that they can counter it is really one of the big questions, or just how they run their small lineup and the proficiency of Steph Curry at point guard along with the all-heart leader, Draymond Green. It should make for an interesting, as you put it, 4-way coin flip. I want you to continue I would like you to continue with your predictions down through who's going to challenge the Warriors in the West.
Yeah, no doubt. There are some really powerful teams at the top of the West. I feel like the Warriors will have the best regular season, but I wasn't necessarily predicting them to win a title because I think the Spurs actually might, if they stay healthy, they might have the best playoff team. When you look at them adding LaMarcus Aldridge to that unit that they already had, I'm not sure once you get to the playoffs. So I'll go ahead and slot the Spurs in at number 2, even ahead of. Do you want me to go the whole 8 now, or just go one?
Let's go for the whole 8. Let's hear it.
All right. So 2 Spurs, 3 I'll go Clippers. They're another that could be even higher up. Their one weakness last year was their bench, and they filled a lot of that over the offseason. But I'll put them at the 3rd slot. OKC and the Rockets. It's insane that they're 4 and 5 in my rankings. They could both win 60 games. I'll say OKC at 4, the Rockets at 5. Then I'll go with the Grizzlies at 6, the Pelicans at 7, and rounding out the playoffs, the Minnesota Timberwolves, featuring Kevin Garnett, who, by the way, may just be the best player of all time.
We did a clip once on TYT Sports on who had a better career, like Dirk Nowitzki or Kevin Garnett. And in terms of playing ability, I've always said Kevin Garnett, but career-wise, maybe Nowitzki. It's a great topic for debate that we might have to save, considering that you're a Kevin Garnett fan.
I was going to say, that could be a clip all in itself.
Yeah, of course. And Kevin Garnett, as Zach Lowe put it in Grantland in his Western Conference preview, the all-scream coach, because he loves to scream at his teammates. Great Onion article also on Kevin Garnett and how he screams in his sleep. But enough about KG, because what's interesting about the West is how top-heavy they are, and the fact that really, we're forgetting about I call him Tony Davis, Anthony Davis, and how much better he's going to get this year under hopefully Alvin Gentry being a great head coach, not just a great assistant coach, but that's a great challenge. We'll find out throughout the year. But as for myself, I wrote down my Western Conference predictions, and they were almost spot on to yours. And then last night, what I did was I rearranged them because I said my first instinct is definitely going to be wrong. And now my second instinct probably also going to be wrong. But so I have the Clippers at 2. And I have them at 2 because I think this is basically the make or break year for the Clippers. If they don't get to the Western Conference Finals and or the championship, which are the finals themselves, which is going to be a tough task, especially in the West, something is just not right with either Ballmer, with Doc Rivers. And Doc Rivers is someone that I've adored as a coach ever since he was put together the Big Three in Boston. So bold statement, Clippers at the 2. They obviously have the bench now to do it. It's not all on Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin. They're going to be the most exciting team to watch because they might all choke each other out sometime between the season. After that, I have the Thunder at the 3, I should say. The Spurs at the 4. The Spurs at the 4 for one reason. Greg Popovich is such a basketball genius. The first rule of the Spurs, by the way, is you don't count out the Spurs, and the second rule of the Spurs is that you don't count out the Spurs. They'll go in as a 6th seed if they want to, but his minutes management and how he's handled all the premier talent in the past, with Danny Green, Kawhi Leonard emerging as the new age, new look Spurs, in addition to LaMarcus Aldridge. I just wouldn't be surprised if the Spurs are 22-20 at the break and then don't lose a game in the second half of the season. And that plays into Doc's minutes management. And then real quick, the Rockets at the 5. That's not I don't like Houston Rockets thing. I just think with a healthy Kevin Durant, with LaMarcus Aldridge on the Spurs, with the Clippers and the Warriors, the Rockets are going to compete with them. I give credit to James Harden. I give even more credit to Dwight Howard for the first time in my life because I found out he was playing with basically a torn meniscus and averaging 14-14 in the playoffs. He's got some heart. He just needs to stop trying to be so funny. And then the all-physical Memphis Grizzlies were a staple to the 6th seed in the Western Conference. Pelicans at 7. And then the bold, ridiculous, how the hell could you think this, the Sacramento Kings at the 8. So you have the Timberwolves at the 8, I have the Kings. Let's hear one great reason as to why the Timberwolves will make the 8 seed.
They have the best overall talent, including size in the mix, of any of the teams that are competing for that slot. And I have to say, I didn't expect you to have the Kings there because I think the chalk pick to make the playoffs for that 8 slot would have to be the Jazz.
That's not fun.
Yeah, I really would have probably considered them. As you know, I'm a bit of a Timberwolves Garnett fan, but I really do think, they're either too young or too old, but you put them all together, if they stay healthy, they've got a playoff caliber squad.
Absolutely. You're right about that. They're the League Pass All-Stars. If you have League Pass, as I mentioned, that's a team that I'm going to be watching more so than anybody. Zach LaVine's going to get his starting chance, which should be very interesting, something that he never got on UCLA for such BS reasons. In addition to that, Ricky Rubio, I was reading the other day, played only like 100 minutes total with the starters they had on the court last year. He's obviously a beautiful passer, a good point guard. Can't shoot too well, but we'll see what happens as that plays out. So I don't think it's a ridiculous statement that the Timberwolves make the 8, just because, look, you can make an argument for the Wolves and the Kings at the 8 as much as you can the Jazz, Mavericks, and the Suns. For all we know, the Mavericks implode halfway through the season. They trade everything for draft picks. The Jazz have no true point guard. The Suns and the Markieff Morris, and, once Steve Kerr left the management of that team, they started to struggle, a 3-headed monster point guard. All the stuff that panned out, we kind of should have saw coming, but the argument for any of those 5 teams making the 8 seems like a toss-up. The reason I have the Kings falls to George Karl. Say what you want about him, and he doesn't get along with any of his players. He still tends to win 50% of his games. You win 50% of your games in the West, you're going to make the 8. In addition to that, DeMarcus Cousins is a dark horse, another dark horse MVP candidate in the NBA. They drafted Willie Cauley-Stein. He's a great defensive player. And if the dropping a cat in water, a.k.a. Rajon Rondo, works out in Sacramento, you have one of the best passing point guards in the league. So many ifs. I like the Wolves at the 8. I like the Kings at the 8. Too bad we can't have 9 or 10 teams in the Western Conference playoffs. So there you have it, the Western Conference predictions from Jason and Dr. Andre Snellings, calling in from Michigan, by the way. The Minnesota Timberwolves faithful. I don't think I've met a Timberwolves fan before, but we have one. Andre, any last predictions for the Western Conference you'd like to make before we go?
I guess the one thing I'd say, considering we had both of us had them at the 5 slot, is that I mean, I think the Rockets could come out of the West.
Mm-hmm.
They're a really strange team. They were put together, in a unique way, but they could take it.
They can, and they all might be wearing Adidas shoes, considering James Harden's shoe deal by the end of the year. Like that. Again, it's so hard to predict. There's so many storylines in the Western Conference this year, and I have a huge rant for the Eastern Conference coming up in the next clip. But the Kevin Durant situation, of course, he's a free agent. That's going to be probably, sadly, the leading headline, regardless what else is happening throughout the entire year. And I can't wait to see what 3 teams are not mentioned as a free agency contender for Kevin Durant. So there you have it. Commenters, leave your Western Conference predictions in the comment section below. Let us know if we are spot on with our predictions. We'll know in about 10 days into the NBA season whether we are on or off our prediction mark. You can follow Andre at Professor DRZ on Twitter. Andre, thanks for joining us. Make sure to stick around for the Eastern Conference preview clip. You can click on that somewhere over here or in the description box below. Follow TYT Sports and myself at JasonRubin91. We'll see you next time.